All right, well, I'll call the meeting to order. Jen, would you take roll, please?
Commissioner Corbin?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Waldner?
Here.
Commissioner Thill?
Here.
Mayor Lindsay?
Here. And Jen, at this time, would you invoke the oath of office to
Please.
two commissioners?
We'll do both of you at the same time. You want to
Okay.
join me up front? All right. Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
and the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of Commissioner
of Commissioner
for the City of Madison
for the City of Madison
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I understand
I understand
that I am not
that I am not
under direct or indirect obligation
under direct or indirect obligation
to appoint or elect
to appoint or elect
any person
any person
to any office,
to any office,
position,
position,
or employment
or employment
under the government of this municipality.
under the government of this municipality.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good.
Documents here for you to sign, if you would, please.
Go ahead.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
You have before you the agenda for this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under appearances and acknowledgments, acknowledge the Drinking Water Certificate of Achievement Award, and that was presented to the City of Madison from the state of South Dakota. And Jen, did you have anything you wanted to add
I'm
to
going to
that?
defer to Brad, please.
Brad?
Yeah, the state of South Dakota every year has awards that they present for systems that do outstanding work in the delivery of water to their customers. And the city of Madison met the achievements or met the requirements for that achievement, and the state of South Dakota presented us with the award for drinking water achievement. And there's in your packet, you should have had a letter and a news release along with a certificate for the city of Madison drinking water.
And then there were also individual certificates in that for the employees that we have in the drinking water area. And those were presented today to them, and a picture was taken that will soon be in the Madison paper along with the letter from the Department of Natural Resources. So, and with that, do we have a motion to acknowledge?
I'll make a motion, we acknowledge the Drinking Water Certificate of Achievement Award and direct Brad to thank all of the employees from the commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we have Luke Miller here with Luke Muller. I blew that one real quick. From First District, and he's going to give us an update on the pre-disaster mitigation plan.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the chance. Are we on?
You're on.
Yep.
Thanks for the chance to address you. Today, what I'll do is just update you on what we're working on, but I first should introduce myself since I haven't been here to meet in front of commissioners in a few years. I know I've worked with the Planning Commission a few times, but I'm Luke Muller with First District Association Governments in Watertown. We work with 11 counties and the towns therein to provide different types of services. Among others, it's grant writing, GIS services, planning, and I do the latter. I do a lot of the planning and help out with zoning issues as they come up. I worked with the city when I first started back in 2009, 2010 to help with the zoning ordinance update and keep on working as some of that comes up. But right now I'm helping out a little bit with the pre-disaster mitigation plan. And what that is a plan that is being worked on in tandem with Lake County, as well as all the other towns in your county, in which you're updating the pre-disaster mitigation plan. That is a requirement by FEMA in order to make you eligible for disaster assistance, flood insurance for folks that live in the county, and also any sort of hazard mitigation funds as they may come available. Some of those examples are like projects that may include the burial of electrical lines or storm shelters being constructed, or even buyouts of flood-prone properties, things like that. And so hazard mitigation funds are available for those sorts of projects, but they're not if you don't list them in a plan ahead of time. And that's where we go in. The last plan was done 4 years ago. They are good for 5 years. And the process on it seems like you're constantly updating it, because it takes about 2 years to do the plan, or about a year to do the plan, another year to ask for FEMA to help with funding on actually performing the plan, and then you get to live with it for 3 years before you start the whole thing over again. And so it's got to be updated every 5 years. That's where we're at with our next update. The main thing that has come out of what we've worked on, we met with staff here today, and I appreciate staff meeting with us as well as the mayor in helping us through. We identify critical infrastructure within the community. Has anything changed? Is there anything new? And of course, some of those things, has anything changed, comes up with FEMA. Does FEMA warrant anything new being important that wasn't important before? So we have to verify that as well. And then the other part to that was identifying, updating any sorts of projects that might be something that the town may want to be involved in as far as mitigation projects. And those would include some of the things that were identified in discussions would be the idea that we need to have storm shelters. It would be a good idea to plan for storm shelters in areas that use them, such as in or near trailer courts, as well as at public parks, specifically ball fields. Ideally, it'd be in locations that can have dual purpose and serve populations that live there, as well as folks that are out there just for an intermittent use. Other things involved updates or specific, maybe specific and general practices involved in flood management, be it some channel widening or cleanouts, all the way down to some specific sorts of installation of stormwater improvements in one road or another. And so having those on their list, it helps out, so that you can have them out there. They like to have a list that you can mark off. The point that I made to staff, and I'll make to you as well. We'll put together a list of those items that we came up with. You'll get that information ahead of any actual adoption of the plan itself, so you can review it, and we'll put it in a packet so you can review that information. If something does come up, there will still be time ahead of time to add something or take it out, frankly, if you just decide this doesn't make any sense. But for the most part, staff vetted. I think they'll be pretty confident they got a pretty comprehensive list through there. So there's nothing intended. The main thing I pointed out to them, and I'll point out to you guys, it's not a budget list. It's not a grocery list. This is essentially it's a Christmas list, not a grocery list. You deal with the grocery list coming up in a few months with budget. You don't have to worry about that part yet with this one. So with that, I'll answer any questions on it, but I just wanted to update you. The reason we sent, for what it's worth, the reason we sent along that list for folks to sign in that they were here. FEMA does like us to verify that we did have a public meeting involving and discussing, pointing out that we are involved in this process. And the folks can contact the city and they can forward those questions on to me if there's any questions on that as well. So we will have that information. Have any questions for me?
And just FYI, besides other staff members from all the departments and that, Brad, myself, Jen, and Chad were all a part of the meeting today in the discussion. So it was very good. It was very good. Questions or comments? All right.
Thank you all.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone would like removed from the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no old business under new business. Resolution number 2018-07, adopt the powers and duties of the mayors and commissioners. And the resolution in that has everyone pretty much status quo in that, in the departments in that they're currently representing. So with that, Jen, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I don't, thank you.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2018-07, adopt the powers and duties of the mayor and commissioners.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Resolution number 2018-08, provide extensions to certain provisions of previous agreements with Madison Housing and Redevelopment Commission. And I'll ask Chad to begin, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, I can do that. Thank you, Mayor and Commission. On April 11th, a letter dated April 11th from Brenda Strom was provided to the city outlining several different components related to the Housing and Redevelopment Commission's project on the north part of North Avenue in town. The Commission acknowledged that that letter on about April 22nd, I think, whatever day that meeting was. And then they asked that myself and Attorney Jenks coordinate, in this case, a resolution, which is what you see on the agenda today, a resolution which deals with some of the matters brought up in Ms. Strom's letter. So we have done that over the last couple weeks in talking with Ms. Strom and their attorney, Mr. Lammers, who is here today, to create a resolution that deals with some of the items that they had brought up in the agreement, or excuse me, in the letter. And so if I may just walk through a few of the items in this resolution to try to give you some additional background. It was in the agenda packet, so you've had a chance to review that. There's several different whereas statements, and maybe just before I get into it, there was some development at the north end of Hearth Avenue starting back in 1992, or else at least some sale of property. But with those sales of property, there was different agreements and encumbrances upon the various purchasing parties at that time, and then their successors, starting in 1992. And then again, there was some more agreements back in the 2000 year, the year 2000, and then another one in 2005, which basically, among other things, talks about who's responsible for what when the development of that road takes place, including the development of any utilities underneath the roadway. So with that, I just wanted to hit on a couple of high points of this resolution. The third whereas statement basically acknowledges the fact that Madison Housing Redevelopment Commission did get an approved conditional use permit from the Planning and Zoning Board, the Board of Adjustment in this case, in March 2013. And again, the fourth whereas acknowledges this letter that Ms. Strom wrote. The fifth whereas talks about 5 agreements that had been in place. I alluded to them earlier. So we are trying, since this last meeting, we've been trying to sort through some of the things that were talked about in those agreements, committed to in those agreements, and maybe more importantly, I think I admitted this earlier, where those parties encumbered their successors, from my reading of it anyway, encumbered their successors to certain different things. Those agreements all were recorded at the Register of Deeds office after they were entered into, which is important in the fact that, again, I'm not an attorney, but that sort of notifies the successor landowners of what the previous landowners had committed to, among other things. And trying to see what the last whereas statement talks about there has been some work done that was contemplated in some of those agreements in what is described in the agreements, not in MHRC's plans right now, but that has a separate phase 1, phase 2 process. But in those agreements from 2000, it talked about phase 1, phase 2, and so on. So it acknowledges the fact that some of that work has been accomplished. Phase 1 of the 2000 contemplated work, the work that was contemplated in the year 2000. So moving to the numbered points in the resolution, the first one basically says this is a unilateral instrument, so to speak, where the MHRC or any of the other parties are not a signatory on this, so they're not agreeing to anything. We can't change the terms of an agreement in this resolution, so essentially we're just restating and trying to summarize things here, and we can't change any of the terms of the agreements, I guess in my opinion. So that's what the first thing tries to make clear, the first bullet point. The second bullet point specifically talks about street improvements. In the letter from Ms. Strom, she had asked for a deferral of the completion of phase 2 of Hearth Avenue, basically the extension of where it is now to the north side of their property, until the end of 2019. So the second bullet point essentially grants what was requested in the letter regarding the extension of Hearth Avenue, the curb and gutter and hard surface portion of that. Number 3 talks about 13th Street, which was contemplated in the agreements, but most specifically in the first couple sentences, it also grants what was requested by Ms. Strom of an extension of any work on 13th Street until 2023. Again, so to reiterate, they requested an extension to 2023, and that's granted there. It also talks about some items that the city will endeavor to do, and I don't want to get into all the weeds of these agreements. I can if you want me to, but it says that the city will reach out to some of the adjacent parties, particularly the party that lives to the north, and see if they will proceed with something they agreed to in one of those previous agreements, specifically proceed with dedicating the land, 66 foot of right-of-way, where 13th Street will be. Right now, there's an easement in place for a water main that had been installed in the past, but it says that the party to the north, the Pauls in this case, will dedicate at some point in the future. The Pauls had subsequently sold a portion of that, so there's another party in the picture, the foundation, they're mentioned in here, the DSU Foundation. So the last part of bullet point 3 says that the city will reach out to those parties to try to get them to dedicate that property. And then subsequently pursue a special assessment process. But that 2023, I think, is a good request from HMRC. It gives time to work with the parties to the north, the Pauls, the foundation, and also to flesh out some more details regarding the assessment process itself and some other potential conflicting language in some of the agreements. I should say, have an aside here briefly, most of these agreements are verbatim, and when I refer to that, I mean there's 2 agreements with HMRC. One is a letter of it's called a memorandum of understanding. The second one is called a letter of agreement. They're virtually identical with a few small things different, and there may be some conflicts in those, but this extra 5 years would give time for us to review that, review those conflicts and address them, among other things. So there's also 2 other agreements with the Pauls. One is titled a memorandum of understanding, and then the other one is called a contract for construction of 13th Street. Again, the terms in those are mostly identical, and so this just gives us time to work on some of the issues related to 13th Street. The other thing in point 3, I should point out, as the development of the property takes place and they're looking to build these structures there, the grade of 13th Street, the future 13th Street is important, both for the city, for a variety of reasons. One, because we have a water main underneath of it. We want to make sure that that grade is, the elevation, et cetera, is thought through when 13th Street is constructed. But also HMRC has an interest in that because that will affect the street orientation. The elevation of street may affect the elevation of drainage and the construction of their building. And so MHRC, in Ms. Strom's letter, she had indicated that MHRC will provide to the city a grading plan for 13th Street included in the civil design, along with locates and depths for the existing water line. So that's the, I believe it's the end of the first sentence. So we've incorporated that into here. They said they would do it, and we said, okay, well, that's great. Let's proceed.
And then we'll work with them to make sure it fits in with us and
Correct, yes.
our snow removal, everything else.
Correct,
'Cause that
correct.
could
It
get
gets
pretty-
it can get steep, and we don't want to have a shallow water line. And
But
the
I
other,
also see you don't want your building on a
yes,
side
yep.
of the road like that either, so. Okay.
Yes. And the other thing related to that, our public works folks, I talked with Mr. Tiemann about us working with them to to pothole down to the elevation of the water line so that their surveyor folks can pick that up. So I'm not going to put that on them. Hopefully, and we've been talking about that more recently, to not impact the adjacent landowner because it's farmland, and to do it before planting and so on, so we don't have to deal with all those challenges that may come up. The fourth bullet point talks about the sanitary sewer extension in Hearth Avenue. The plan, as I understand it, is to actually install the sanitary sewer main extension to the north end of Hearth Avenue this year, and let any trenches settle and so on in that trench, so that when the street's put on next year, there'll be no problems. That paragraph simply acknowledges the fact of, that that's what MHRC's plans are. The fifth bullet point, again, just reiterates some different clauses that are already in the agreements regarding detention ponds and related appurtenances. And then the sixth bullet point in the resolution basically talks about the street, the water main, and so on shall be built according to the city standards. And furthermore, that the city, we have to review those plans to make sure and verify that they're built according to city standards. So they have to submit those to us for approval beforehand. So with that, I just wanted to hit on a few of the high points of those. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions. And I see several folks from
Yes.
MHRC are here as well.
Brenda, Jerome, did either of you want to add or anything?
I don't think so. I think you
Pretty well covered it? Okay. Questions or comments?
I know you spent quite a bit of time on this, David, so I think it does a pretty good job of laying out how the process will go on this. So.
Hopefully it's a useful instrument we can all look towards in the future as this kind of comes together.
It's kind of a unique situation with the way the Pauls did this, but yeah.
Kind of deferred improvements and assigned costs. That's really what they did. Instead of nowadays, more often than not only Madison but other communities, the developer would install all the infrastructure and then recoup any cost of the infrastructure by cost of the lots and so on. And this was just how this started in a different path back in 1992, and so we're trying to make it all come together.
The only thing I have to add is we'll probably have part done before 19, so it'll probably be done this year along with the building, at least our side of the street. So
It's nice that DSU is willing to pay for all that. Thank you.
well, it's not even close. No, Hart, not 13, Hart.
Word.
So that's in the plans that we are working on with Heartland on a grant for our portion of Hart. So if that goes through, we will have that done this year.
No, very good.
Cool.
Very good.
Where's the 13th Street gonna be at?
Just at the very north end of the HMRC property, and then where it terminates now. It's hard to describe it because it's out in the middle of a field. more
It's
or
in the
less
middle
now.
of the field
The
right
very
now.
end,
It's hard
north
to see
end
it.
of the DSU Foundation parking lot there.
Okay.
It's going to be right there.
Okay, as you go across that land of Paul's, there's a drain tile that comes from up on the north side of the football field all the way. That's a clay tile. Yeah, so
Right, that would have to.
And some of that was already
that'll have to be
redone
marked
last
out
year.
before you drill your
Yeah.
test hole.
Yeah. And the one thing maybe, if I may, to talk furthermore about a point that Ms. Strom had mentioned, as far as the cost of constructing the street, again, I didn't mean to get into all the details of these old agreements, but my reading of the cost, I mean, HMRC is to build the street and incur at their cost, and then they recoup the neighboring property's portion of it. In other words, the half of the street cost subsequently. And so the city commission should be aware that now that we own the Maloney Nature Area, we are an adjacent property owner. We are responsible for the half of the street. So the agreement says they'll build it, all of it, both halves of the street, and then we reimburse them. So my understanding is they're proceeding to itemize appropriately, according to the previous agreements, the costs and the bids and so on, so that we'll be able to carefully track and know what those costs are, and then use that tracking to identify our portion of the cost, essentially half. Now that's for the street part. The sewer part is to be recouped based upon future connections. And unfortunately, probably for HMRC, it's not likely the city is going to develop and process that land. So in other words, there will be no connections on the west side, and so those costs will likely not be able to ever be recouped. However, we'll still set up cost recovery processes to do that should something change in 50 years from now or something like that. There, in a side note, agreement Agreement D is actually a cost recovery agreement. I'll just use that term for the water line that's already been put in. So in other words, that line's been put in, and all the steps have been taken and agreements made such that if anybody would connect to that water line, which HMRC has incurred the cost for, there's a mechanism for I believe it's the city is actually the one who collects those costs, and then we push them back, or give them to HMRC. So they've incurred the costs already. When somebody wants to connect on it, there's been a per front foot fee cost established. Say if somebody has a 100-foot lot, let's just say it's $15 a foot, we would get $1,500, and we would, I'm just using hypotheticals, and then give that to MHRC, and that's the system that was worked out and agreed to in Agreement D back in 2005. So a similar agreement and process will have to happen for the sanitary sewer main. As far as the commission simply needs to budget for our half of the street, which probably in 2016 then may or may not be in 19. May or may not be realized in 2018. So
Say that again.
we may not. My understanding up until this point was the street wasn't going to be done until 2019. Well, that works well for the city because we're just entering our budget process. We could determine what those costs are, estimate what those are, set them aside in the 2019 budget, and then pay that at that time. If MHRC completes that street in 2018, we may have to talk to you and find a place for to take those funds from before that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just so I'm absolutely clear, when that comes out on Washington, now, okay, you got the parking lot right next to the playhouse, and then you got, I'll call it the field house parking lot. Are you talking north of the field house parking lot?
That's correct.
Okay.
Immediately
So there's
north.
some,
Just
there's some,
almost right along the edge of it.
yeah, there's some trees there right now, so it would be just right along the edge of that parking lot then.
Yes, I don't know exactly where it will align. I'm hoping it won't
Right.
impact those trees. They're nice trees and those can stay.
Right.
But, that's down the line a little bit.
Okay.
Yes, it's immediately north of that Playhouse parking,
All right.
or the Fieldhouse parking.
Fieldhouse parking lot.
Because I've had some discussions with the police chief about traffic flow up there in that area, and it'll be super nice. So I'm very positive on this activity and this work, just from the fact that when we have events up there, now we have another outlet rather than everything congesting on 9th and Washington or Division and 11th, and so gives us another. Granted, it's going down a little bit into residential area, but still, at least maybe the locals would know, hey, I can sneak out and just go this way, and let everybody else take the main roads out. So,
And just so you're clear on that, 13th Street is set ahead to 2023,
Yep.
so it
It'll
will
be
not
around.
be part of the immediate.
Yep, understand.
Very
But
good.
at least it's going to get there, and so.
Yes.
One other quick note that I'll make, if I may, Mayor, is because we have a Boy Scout in the room, is if you notice this agreement that we're looking at doing right now dates all the way back to 1992, almost 30 years ago. So anytime you sign a contract or anything, just know that it'll always be there. And you never know, and as you can see, we still have to adhere to that even though it is 30 years old. So take notes on that.
Yes. Other questions or comments?
I'll
Make-
make,
Go ahead.
you can read it faster.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2018-08.
You didn't want to read the rest?
Second.
I'm pressed for time.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Resolution 2018-09, establish a special maintenance fee. And this is an annual fee, and that is renewed and has not changed in about the last 3 years at least.
Since the resolution was adopted in 2014,
Okay.
payable in 2015.
Thanks, Jerome.
Thank you.
So it's just a continuation in that and is renewed annually. Questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2018-09.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Authorize the mayor to sign the letter of contract with Banner Associates Incorporated on GIS technical assistance and maintenance. And Chad, I'll ask you to address that, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Included in your agenda packet is said letter that you had alluded to. This letter allows Banner Associates to assist the Public Works Department and the Engineering Department to progressing with an upgrade to more of a web-based system that we started on in 2017. Worked with Jan and her staff pretty significantly until 2017 up till now to continue to progress with this. It started with, we became aware that there's opportunities to convert our GIS to more of a web-based, field-based, where it's immediate update type process in early 2017. And so we started going down that road. And then among other things, what it would do and where things are going is that you can have iPads or tablets in the field, and if there's updates or changes to the system, they happen there, and they're observed there rather than printing out map books and such like that. That's one thing. Another thing that it does is some of the field records that the staff accomplishes. For example, hydrant flushing, they can create a maintenance record. There's hydrant flushing, there's valve turning on your water side, and this is most particularly related to the water distribution system. Banner had worked in that when they did our water model a couple of years ago, and so it was readily available, and that's one of the first systems that we started working on because they were familiar with that. So that's, among other things, what this does about. And I would liken this to, in 2005 when we started with the GIS, we needed some assistance basically at that time to just kind of get up and running, if you will. We hired a firm to survey in that year it was the sanitary sewer system. And we worked again with the city of Sioux Falls. They were a leader in the industry at that time to identify the appropriate fields. They're called fields, where there are different data points, pipe length, pipe slope, pipe type, different things, all that data that's associated with GIS. And so they surveyed that and brought that into a higher level of accuracy, so you could use for flow monitoring and modeling, I should say, and such like that. So I liken this work to that, in that I realize this is a significant expense. We like to do as much as we can in-house, but we hope to learn from this and to be able to build on it and do more and more in-house. But we just need a hand, quite honestly, now with some of to finish what we started in 2017 and just continue to plan to move forward from here. So that, in a nutshell, is what this does. You can read it. It says GIS technical assistance. It's almost like an IT type work, but you can see they're preparing some manuals and going to spend some time up with our field folks doing this, and maintenance. It's almost a maintenance agreement to help us out with that process. So I would recommend proceeding with this. I have discussed this with Brad and Jeremiah some as well.
Is that 8,300? Is that what we're looking at? Right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Because I personally see this more as even a training aspect than even a maintenance. I understand they're going to give you some other materials and stuff, but yeah, this is huge, because obviously, like you had mentioned, getting some of that metadata and putting it in that GIS database. Once it's in there, you only build and grow from there. So it only gets better, and it's only as good as the data that goes in. And so if we can get our guys trained on how to use it better, they're going to put better data in, and ultimately it's going to help us. So,
yeah, that's absolutely our hope, to just continue building this GIS system into a better and better usable tool.
that I'll make a motion. We authorize the mayor to sign letter of contract, Banner Associates Incorporated, for GIS technical assistance and maintenance.
Were you going to say something?
I was going to request that, because this is an unbudgeted project, which certainly happens, that we make as part of your motion that the cash for this project come from the water fund cash balance.
And the $8,300 will come from the water cash fund
Keep going, you're doing good.
balance.
Cash balance, you got it.
Second?
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 5, bid number 874, review and award bid for construction of underground electric primary, secondary service and streetlight circuitry. And Brad, did you want to address this?
Yes, Your Honor. We opened bids on April 26th. We had 7 bidders, which is, I think, a record since I've been here at least, and then probably a record for quite some time. 4 of them were within $9,000 of the low bid, which was submitted by Carey and Peterson Powerline Contracting out of Montevideo, Minnesota, and their bid was $228,836.17. Our recommendation through DGR is to award the contract to Carey and Peterson Powerline Construction for that amount. Are there any questions on the recommendation?
You're happy with them? You've worked with them before? You know them? Good?
I haven't personally worked with them. DGR's worked with them on several projects. I've known of them for many years. They're well-known contractors, so they're not an unknown quantity by any stretch of the imagination. And DGR's had good luck working with them in the previous projects, and they're fully capable of doing this project in-house with all their, and everything that they own, they're capable of doing it.
And I thought it was interesting, too, that bids number 2 and 3, and that were basically just $120 difference between the two of them.
Yes, sir. They were real close
Even
bids.
though they were $4,000 more, or $6,000 more close above Carrion. But, you know, that's getting really close.
Tells me we had some good specs.
We had good specs.
And everybody saw about the same thing. Now, if you look at the actual bid tab themselves and look at the line items, they vary quite a bit from one line item to the next, and it's kind of interesting to see where people put their money, which is not unusual. And depending on the size of the machinery, you can see where the people that have the bigger machinery didn't put as much money into the bigger bores, and that's kind of common. And so I think that we'll see that they have the bigger boring machine, and so the big bores aren't a big deal. They'll bring that machine in for the bigger stuff and then use a smaller machine for everything else.
Sorry, guys. You'll do great without me.
So,
Sure, we're reviewing bids
Don't screw this up.
in the electric part.
so
So
no,
then
very
you're-
good.
If you're happy with them,
Yes, sir.
okay?
I'll make a motion that we approve bid number 874 for the construction of underground electric primary, secondary service and street light circuitry to Carrion Peterson Power Line Contracting in the amount of $228,836.17. And do I need to tell you where that's? We're good.
It's budgeted.
Yep. Gotcha.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Bid number 875, review and award bid for the Egan Avenue parking lot project 2018-4. Brad or Chad, either one of you want to address it? You want to go for it, Chad?
Yep, I
Okay.
can talk about that. Thank you, Your Honor. On May 1st at 2 o'clock, we opened bids for the Egan Avenue parking lot project 2018-4. The bid tabulation is included in your agenda packet. We had 6 bidders, so that's very good, in my opinion. The low bid was Double H Paving out of T, South Dakota. They were $300 approximately lower than the second bidder. Very close. So we worked with Double H Paving before. They are actually a subcontractor on the Center Street project, and actually they're working on another private project in town as well. And we also have a fair amount of experience with them, and I believe they do very good work. They're comfortable with their bid. I would recommend that we award the bid to Double H Paving for $61,950.70. Now, the only other thing I should say is that in the budget, my understanding, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, we have $60,000 in the budget. So we exceeded our budget with this. I'm comfortable the bids are very good and close, and so this is the real price, if you will, of the project, and because they were so tight, and so we could change things, reject them, and change things, but I think we're still going to get the same prices. In other words,
With the way the bids came in under budget on Center Street and that, you know, I think we're very comfortable in that. We're talking $1,950.70, and I certainly wouldn't want to have to start over because it cost us that to do that.
yeah, I would agree. And the other thing too, of course, that leaves no contingency. You always, you know, just if you whatever you end up doing, realize that from time to time things change, and this is again a unit price project. So if, you know, you can see, for example, asphalt is $100 a ton. If we use, you know, 5 more ton of asphalt, that's 500. So in other words,
Yes.
this thing can go up and down a little bit. The contract that will follow this is written and such that we will pay the contractor the number of units extended times the unit price. And so that's, just so you're aware, that's also part of the agreement, even if we lock in the price, so to speak, at the $61,950.70. And that's common in construction, because you're bidding unit price items, the number of units goes up and down. And so I just wanted to make you aware of that realize there's, you know, you got to look and consider that there should be a contingency. I would be pretty sure in a smaller project like this that, you know, I wouldn't expect anything more than a 5% contingency to be necessary for this project. But we may be right on it though, or under for that matter, if we use a few less units. of any particular item. So,
How thick a mat are you putting in that?
4 inches. We're using the same section or the same thickness that we did on this parking lot last year that we partnered with DeLon Mork on. So 4 inches of asphalt on 6 inches of granular base course.
Do we own that whole,
We do.
the whole thing?
We do own the whole thing.
I was making sure we didn't have to partner with somebody else.
Nope, we own the whole thing. Part of, we're taking out some concrete bollards in there. We've coordinated with the Public Works staff on this that will probably leave the center of the lot open without any parking bumpers. Certainly, we're not going to put bollards back in for snow removal maintenance items, but we'll probably put in parking bumpers on the edges because, we don't want to hit our neighbors. We don't want to allow people using that parking lot to hit the neighbors. So coordinate with Gary. I didn't identify where he's going to get the funds to buy the bumpers, but just so you're aware, that's not part of the bid, nor is striping part of the bid. They have crews that can do the striping. That would be outside of this price as well. So
Yeah, if we can keep people from running into the building, that's probably a good thing, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'll
And
make a,
this is a project net that's been needed for a long time, so it's good.
yeah, I think we've talked about this in
We
the
have.
last 2-3 years maybe, am I right, Kevin?
I spoke to Gary too, like, it's written, for the most part, very underwritten, most of what you said, no great concerns. I think those are being improved a little welcome, as you say.
Chad and I have talked, we're comfortable that, we've got a large budget for highways and streets because of
Yep.
other improvement projects this year. This should be easily absorbed within that bottom line for their department. If not, we'll come back to you with
Other
another
options.
request. Yeah. But good for this, at this time.
I'll make a motion that we approve bid number 875 for Egan Avenue parking lot, project 2018-4 in the amount of $61,950.70, and award that to Double H Paving.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Declare as surplus property and authorize for proper disposal, high-pressure sodium lighting and associated hardware. And I'll ask Brad if you want to address that one, please.
Yes, Your Honor, we have a significant amount of lighting that we've removed, and we've been putting up LED lighting throughout town, and we have a significant amount of those, along with some of the associated hardware that came down with the lights, and we need to dispose of those. They have no particular value. We've marketed them to anybody and everybody that would listen, and they have no particular value. So we're going to be lucky if we can get them hauled off.
I was going to ask you, if you anticipate they'll have any bidding on it, I wouldn't think so.
We'll be, basically, if they'll haul it off without charging us an arm and a leg, we're going to be happy. Because we don't want to go out there and try to sort through it and pull out, it's just one of those things that's,
Our time is worth something.
yeah, our time is worth something. If we can just get it hauled off, we're going to be happy, so.
I still would like, if I may, you to appoint appraisers that didn't hit my line item here in the cover sheet. We should still appoint those appraisers for zero value and then authorize for proper disposal.
I'll make a motion, we declare as surplus property, authorize the proper disposal, high-pressure sodium lighting, and associated hardware, appoint appraisers Commissioner Corbin, Director Lawrence, Mr. Brad Lawrence, and Chad Combs.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no announcements, no executive session, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Brief announcement.
Brief announcement.
Just an update that today was the first day of the community-wide cleanup. Spoke with Gary today. Things are going well. In fact, it anticipates about another hour of work up there. What'd you say? I like that. Some tires and stuff, and then they'll move on to the next one. It's usually about this time when they already begin to fall behind. So it's going well. Thank everybody for cooperating and making this work well. So keep it up.
Very good, very good. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So make a motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, yeah, thank you.